Hello again and welcome back to part 2 of the second video. If you're coming into this video before seeing part 1, a card will appear above that you can check out and be caught up with the part 1 action. However, I would suggest you start there. I'll also be linking it down in the comments below, but I hope you enjoy the rest of this guide. So now that you know a little bit about the cross area here, you might be wondering, what should I do next? Should I go to a certain zone and start gathering? Should I start crafting my gear? Should I start doing some PvE to maybe get some more silver so that I can buy my gear if I don't want to gather or craft? All of these things are up to you, but one good thing that I want to show you all is right off the boat you can likely do this, which is a expedition. These expeditions come in multiple forms. There's solo expeditions and then there's group expeditions. The end game of expeditions is a similar system to other games that have map levels. So I believe the expeditions known as hardcore expeditions or HCEs, those end up going all the way up to level 18 if I'm not mistaken. As you go higher up in those hardcore expeditions, it gets harder and harder. The mobs are super powered, but the rewards are great. You get a lot of silver for completing expeditions at the highest levels. But for purposes of our fresh start here, there's a couple reasons why someone may wish to do these early. Number one, they're 100% safe. It's not full loot PvP. You're not going to run into any other players. This is just a solo adventure doing PvE to kill a certain boss. It'll give you 1,000 silver once you complete it, but you're also gaining silver inside by killing mobs. They all drop silver, so you'll be getting more than 1,000. And then it gives you this, a sealed royal sigil bag. In the early game of a new server especially, these sigils will actually sell for a lot because, again, there's none of them on the market. No one can create certain kind of gear without these royal sigils. So doing this maybe once a day might behoove you to just get the daily bonus, but eventually you'll just be making so much money that you won't even want to do these anymore. But as a new player, it might be a good way to introduce you to some of the PvE and the mechanics. So let's go ahead and do this. We're here inside of the expedition right now, and you'll see you just go through it. You can press N to see the map, and you just go through killing these mobs, gaining EXP, and farming. Now, as we do these mobs, I guess we could talk about PvE in general in this game. Albion's PvE is challenging at first until you basically know what the mobs do. The mobs typically have very telegraphed abilities that you should be able to dodge. The only reason you wouldn't dodge it is if you are either still trying to pull off a combat spell and not moving instead, or perhaps you think you could dodge it, but you have high ping and you need to anticipate it further. But the key in this game is not being hit. Some monsters that have much higher health than you can be defeated if you understand their patterns and you dodge their abilities. You will learn this eventually when you fight crystal spiders in the mists of Avalon and other such tough creatures. So if you want to be good at PvE as well as PvP, frankly, you need to pay attention to the habits that these mobs have. They are not at random. They do the same thing every single time. So once you learn it once, you probably will learn, will be able to do the whole thing at any time.
5 minutes later.
There we go. Just hit Journeyman Adventurer as well after completing that. You may not be that fast simply because there is accelerated beta progression, but we at least hit it. Now we go back in and we just press that and we're done. And here we go. It rewards us with 1,000 silver, and then we use the sigil and we could sell this for big bucks. We could even go look right now on this server. They're probably buying them for a decent price. Not that much actually, but they are selling them. A quick piece on markets. A quick note about markets. Let's actually look at the interface for the markets, and I'll just explain a few things. Number one, always remember that markets are not linked globally. All the items in a market are only in that location. So this is Highland Cross Marketplace. Local marketplaces. Each city in Albion has its own local marketplace, meaning there can be a different supply and different prices per city. All trades at the marketplace are conducted by players. Player-run economy. Use the search bar and filter options at the top of the screen to find the items you're looking for. Search and filter settings persist when changing tabs in the marketplace. You can purchase items via the buy tab, which is right here. Purchase items can be retrieved from the completed transactions tab, where they are stored for 60 days. It looks like we don't have a completed transaction tab yet because I have not sold anything or bought anything. In the sell tab, You can sell any item with 100% durability from your inventory, provided another player has a buy order. So yes, this is a good point here. In order to sell anything on the market, it must be fully repaired. So remember, repair bills have to be paid before you can sell. There's also a slight tax that the game charges you. This is obviously a silver sync, so that they charge you something. General information, there are orders here. Like the most complicated piece of the market is the order system, and we'll just read this through. Instead of fulfilling existing orders, you could set up your own buy or sell orders for a setup fee. An order is active until it either completely fulfilled or 30 days have passed, at which point it is automatically canceled. All items from canceled or fulfilled orders are stored in the completed transactions tab. If not claimed within 60 days, they are deleted. You have 30 days to sell an item. Once the 30 days is passed and no one sold it, it goes into your completed transactions tab. And if you don't pick it up in the completed transactions tab within 60 days, that's anything you have there, whether you bought something and forgot to pick it up or it expired. If it's been there for 60 days and not picked up or claimed, it will be deleted. So you need to understand this, because later on in the game, it may not mean much to you now. Later on in the game, you will probably have market orders set up in multiple different cities, multiple different regions, and you will start getting mail notifications saying this item has expired in the Highland Cross marketplace, for example. Let's say I wanted to see the market history. You would have to click on the item that you're looking for. Let's just say mule. Let's say I want to buy this mule. Click buy, and right now the price at the bottom says 19,000. That means that a player has listed a sell order, meaning I want to sell this item, this mule, for 19,000. If you want to buy it, you just click buy, and you are fulfilling one sell order of that individual player, and you will get this item. If you wanted to sell a mule that you had in your inventory, first off, you'd have to go here. If I wanted to sell these mules, which I do, I'm going to click sell. Remember, these mules I took from a tutorial. I can either instantly sell them for 8,888 silver, or I can say, I don't know, this seems a little bit too low. Now, the reason why this price is what it is because a player put it there. This is known as a buy order. So they're saying here that they don't like the price that is listed currently. They're saying the person trying to sell it for 19,000, I don't want to buy it for that much, but I will buy it for this price. So they put this order up, and you could instantly sell to that person's buy order. I hope that makes sense to those people watching. In our case, we are going to want to use a sell order, because I do believe that this is way too low. So what we would do is we would go to the sell order. If we wanted to undercut the gentleman, we could just go down by one. If we wanted to price it higher, we can put a custom number or go up with that. Typically, when I put up a sell order, which is mainly what I do for everything, I will just do that so that I'm the first item that they see. Then I click create. You could check on your orders in this tab. Sell orders, you can see that hasn't sold yet, but there they are right there. This is how you can create a buy order. If I want to sell my Royal Sigil, there's one last thing that you can expand to see the information of how things sold previously. So when you click on a specific item, you can click this little caret, and it actually shows you the buy orders and the sell orders, and it kind of gives you a history of like what prices these things were selling for. So if you are a market type of person, that this information will be good for you. And that is pretty much how to use the marketplace. Again, you could search for items by name. You can search for items by category. If you highlight things, you will see that there are subcategories, so make sure you pick the category that works for you. Just about everything. And then you can also filter on tier in addition to all these, as well as the enchantment level, which we'll talk about another time, as well as quality of the item that has been crafted. So as you can see, we have sold one of our sell orders already. This novice mule, we have 19,000. We listed two. One has sold already. Now we have some money. In my case, there's a couple things you can do as a new player. In my case, I decided to go to the market and actually just buy my upgraded gear, simply because I sold the novice mules and that accelerated my income potential. So I purchased my T3 gear once I was able to wear it, If you're not able to wear it directly out of the expedition that we just did, you can just go out into the open world or run another expedition and you can get to probably the T3 level and simply purchase it. However, not every player is going to want to do it the way that I did it here. Some people may want to go out and gather the resources and actually craft the items themselves. There is nothing wrong with doing it that way. It's just a preference among people and what they actually want to accomplish in the game. For purposes of this tutorial, I will not be going on a gathering mode, but instead I'll be going around leveling my gear to the next objective that I personally want to reach, which is T4 gear, so I can actually equip my build. So now that you decided that you either want to begin gathering and crafting or you want to just stick to the PvE and buy items off the marketplace, now is the time for you to go and see what is out there for you to continue to level up. We have leveled our gear to the T3 level so far, and we purchased these items from the market. For this guide here, we are going to focus only on PvE initially. I might change my mind later on in this character's life, but at least right now, we're going to focus on PvE. Open world mobs are always a great idea. Now, we kind of got lucky here, because we just found ourselves a solo dungeon. Now, solo dungeons are green caves. If you see a green cave, that means it's a solo dungeon. But what makes this one a little bit more unique is that it has butterflies outside of it. Some dungeons will not have butterflies, some will. The butterflies simply denote that the dungeon is an upgraded dungeon, and hence the mobs will have higher mob health than they normally would. I believe they also deal more damage than they normally would, but we'll double check that. But finding one of these is really good. Now, when you enter a solo dungeon, these butterflies will disappear. They won't be showing anymore, and that's a good thing because it might not entice somebody to follow you in. Even though we don't have to worry in a blue zone, again, blue zone is not full loot PvP, I will tell you that this is a best practice to do when you do enter full loot PvP areas. What you want to do here is you want to wait approximately 90 seconds before you proceed, because after 90 seconds, if no one had entered into the dungeon, the entrance of this cave disappears from the outside, which means you're safe. We can just go through here. Now, the reason why these are good to do every now and then, especially in the early game for newer players, they provide you with more, they provide you with kind of an expedition of sorts, but in the open world is where you have to get it. So there is more risk running these than, let's say, an expedition, but both are very similar. Oh, can we do it? Oh, okay, it's okay. This is good. When you drop down, all that happens is this. Since we're in a safe dungeon, nothing to worry about, but in the open world in red and black zones, this could possibly prove deadly. Because if I was in the open world or in a dungeon that I didn't wait 90 seconds for it to close, and someone came up behind me after I was down from mobs, in a full loot zone, in a red or a black zone, they could walk up to me and execute me and take all my loot. So this is why, it's funny that we didn't do so well there, but it's not funny if you do it in the wrong place. Because then you're just going to end up dead and salty. These dungeons also can have multiple floors. I believe the max amount of floors a dungeon can have, whether it's a solo dungeon or a group dungeon, is 5 floors. But if it goes to 5 floors, then you guarantee a legendary chest and a legendary boss. Now, when we open the chest, because we are in a simulation of a fresh start server with the closed beta of the Asia server happening right now, we're on this server, you will notice that there might not be many good loot items that are in the chest. And this is because when a new server starts, there is a lag in terms of loot that gets distributed among all the different loot possibilities because no one has listed anything yet. So how does all this loot come to be? I'm going to share this really quickly with you. It's actually known as the black market. The black market is only found in Caerleon, and to sell to the black market is exactly what causes everything to spawn in the open world. But just know right now that players can sell to the black market in Caerleon, and that's how all of the loot that is crafted by players becomes loot that is dropped from chests, from mobs, from castles, basically Hellgates, any loot that you can think of, it comes from players selling to the black market. So just understand that. Some of you might be asking, why would you sell to the black market? Well, the black market is actually a mechanism in the game where the game is actually paying you to sell items to it. And sometimes those items you can fetch a higher price than on the regular marketplace. And many people make a huge living just looking at the black market, comparing it to other markets in the game, and then transporting things to the black market that look great for quick profits. Whew. Okay, we got it. So that unlocks our Adept Adventurers node, which means now we can use T4 mounts, bags, capes, satchels, and demolition hammers. You remember from earlier too, once we hit an Expert Adventurer, we then unlock our faction ability to do factions. So we kill this. Before I open this up, I just want to also let you know, it used to be that you can skip through a whole dungeon and just go kill the final boss to open up the chests. You can no longer do that anymore. So for anyone who was thinking to themselves, oh, I'm just going to go in here and just get chests 24/7, you have to actually kill the mobs in order to get it. There is more efficient ways to do this. There's a certain percentage of mobs that you have to kill in order to get it. I just recommend killing them all so you don't have to go back 10 to 15 times trying to figure out where you didn't kill a mob. But yeah, you have to kill all the mobs before this and the boss to actually open this. So very important to know that. And as you can see, crap loot here. It's nothing, not even a rune. But it did give us EXP, and it did give us 2,000 silver. So that's not bad. To leave a dungeon, you can do this at any time. To leave a dungeon, you just press A, and you start porting out of the dungeon, and it'll take you right outside the dungeon that you entered. And of course, it's gone because we just finished it. It disappeared after 90 seconds, as I said. That's the proof right there. That's basically what solo dungeons are. Let's talk about group dungeons. There's probably 4 types of group dungeons in the game. There's the expeditions that we talked about, both the regular expedition with a 5-man squad and the hardcore expeditions. There is group dungeons known as static dungeons, which are dungeons you see from the minimap, the local minimap. So this would be known as a static dungeon. There are group dungeons that are similar to the solo random green caves, except they appear as blue caves. Those dungeons, you could bring as many people as you want in there, but the party size is typically 5 to 7 people before the mob health gets a little bit out of control, increases. The last one is Avalonian dungeons, which is basically a raid designed for 20-man people, although people do it for much less. So as you walk around and you're paying attention to different things in this game, it's always good to know what your options are in terms of either exits or potentially safe spots within a map for you to not get killed by somebody in a full loot PvP zone. When we look at this map, for instance, I see a number of options for us to actually leave this map. You have clearly the exits, the regular exits, which lead to places. You have these blue portals, known as Roads of Avalon portals. These take you to a series of connections that bring you from one area of the map to another. Similar to wormholes in EVE Online, the Roads of Avalon are basically that. You can use these as escapes. Now, if you're going to use this as an escape, though, you see how there's charges here? 7 out of 7? Make sure that there is charges left. If you go and there's 0 out of 7 charges, then whoever's chasing you will just stop you and you won't be able to go through because there's no charges left. So before you use this as an escape, hover over it in your map and make sure that it's viable. The last thing that we will talk about more in detail is faction outposts can be great areas for you to perhaps escape a gank. If there is no way for you to get to an exit in time, then running into an outpost is a pretty decent option. This is an example of what we would call a random group dungeon. Similar to solo dungeons, they spawn randomly. They also can be purchased they also drop from certain chests or loot, You could also buy them on the marketplace from other people who have purchased them as well. Another piece of solo content that you may come across is a corrupted dungeon. Corrupted dungeons are 1v1 experiences that have both PvE and PvP. They have a few chests and a few boss mobs, and ultimately you go in there to find a fight. There are 3 types of corrupted dungeons, and they have different requirements for each. The Hunter level is non-full loot PvP, does require an item power of 800, so I actually can't go in here yet. Stalker level requires item power of 900 at a minimum, and Slayer requires item power of 1200. Feel free to start in the Hunter levels to get the hang of it, and then you can go in and test your luck. So you made it to your first city. Cities are actually a very interesting part of Albion Online. Again, just to mention a few things, they have their own banks and their own marketplaces. These are localized. To get this view, you can just press the N key. They have the repair station that we are familiar with. They have the expedition master to run expeditions. They have a bunch of other unique elements as well. The first unique element that I would like to talk about will be the island merchant. So as you would imagine, the island merchant looks like a little bit of an island icon, and it's important because it is one of the better ways for players to make some steady recurring income on a daily basis. A lot of people enjoy doing it. I personally do not do it because I don't like chores of coming back every 24 hours or 22 hours. And that's why I don't. However, a lot of people love playing Farmville and Albion, and they make a ton of money from it. In order to purchase an island, you have to have at least 7 days of premium active. There is the ability to purchase 2 islands in Albion Online now. The first island can be purchased anywhere on the Royal Continent. The second island can be purchased in the new City of the Mists called Breslin. This was added back in November 2022 with the Beyond the Veil update. You now can purchase 2 islands total, one in the Royal Continent, one in Breslin. We're purchasing our first one in the Royal Continent. That is why it says other islands here. But let's click buy really quick. You buy it, and we have our island, which is level 1 of 6. Let's just visit this really quick. I probably need to upgrade it one more time in order to show you guys exactly what is needed. Once you purchase that for the first time, you get a level 1 out of 6 on your island. As you can see here, the only thing you have is 1 plot of land to put a house on. Typically, people will put houses here for storage purposes, to also use the Albion Online laborer system, as well as to bind and make the house their home. When you upgrade your island higher, you will notice that it allows you to have certain farm plots. The farm plot system is lucrative. It operates on a 22-hour period. Unfortunately, as a new character here, I don't have that set up for us, but just know that go to the island merchant, have 7 days premium, buy the island, upgrade the island, start leveraging the farms, and you could also decide to do herbs, and you can even raise animals. And again, there is a system known as the laborer system that requires you to build houses for laborers. We will try to go into this in detail in another video, but we likely won't get to it in this video. But just know that laborers are another option to make money out of your island. Another unique element of cities is that they all are aligned with a faction. There is a faction enlistment vendor in every single city in the Royal Continent, and normally the vendor, if you want to know where it normally is near the exit that points towards the center of the map. Now, although this particular character does not meet the requirements yet, another unique element of various towns is the Artifact Foundry. The Artifact Foundry is shown here, and it has a lot of unique elements to it. You are able to craft artifacts from this Artifact Foundry. You're able to salvage items that can then be repurposed to create artifacts. You can also enchant items. If you have enough of these, runes, relics, and souls, and you have the appropriate tier, you can begin to make your items stronger. You can either craft an item with higher quality materials, uncommon, rare, epic, or legendary, exceptional or legendary, to get you to, let's say, a T4.1 piece of gear, or you can get a flat piece of gear, a T5 gear, and then put enough runes in it to bring it up to 5.1. Then the next level up is the souls, which can bring a 5.1 to a 5.2, and then the relics bring 5.2 to a 5.3. Last thing you can do is transmute. So if you have a lot of extra runes, a lot of extra essences, and you want to convert them into something else, this page allows you to do that. Additionally, you can combine multiple dungeon maps together to create higher tier versions of the maps. And you can also create Avalonian dungeon maps through this process as well. Trying to see where that is. Exceptional masters, yeah, large group. So these are the large group ones that you can create. But to create one of these, a 6.3 large group, and this is 0.3 because it has 3 dots highlighted. To create this, you're going to need 5 of these regular group dungeon maps that are also 6.3. So transmutating here is possible, and so this building is unique and very helpful if you want to re-roll different artifacts, create artifacts, enchant them, or create maps. Another unique building in each city is the Vanity Merchant. For those of you who are fans of fashion, cosmetics, all of these things, this is where you gotta go. They have a number of things that you could purchase with gold, but the good news is that you can always convert your silver into gold to purchase these things. You don't have to actually buy real gold for that. They have different emotes and different skins you could purchase from the Twitch drop campaign. A lot of people don't know this, but let's say you are getting one of your Twitch drops and you dislike the drop or you have a duplicate. All you have to do is go to the repair station and salvage the duplicate cosmetic item that you don't want. It'll trade it in coins. I believe they're called community coins, if I'm not mistaken. Another unique element of each Royal Land city, except for Caerleon, in terms of the access to the Black Zone, is the Black Zone portal. To get there, simply open up your map and look for the color of your faction city. In this case, Marlock has a blue color. I believe these change colors when you go to the different cities, but they look like this regardless. So if you wanted to go up there, now we're not going to go there just yet. I'm just showing you how to do it, simply because it's good to know. As you walk over here, you have the energy manipulator, which we'll talk about in a moment. But to enter the actual Outlands, you click on this and you click enter. This now takes you to a portal area, which is connected to Marlock. This is the only instance where you will find connected banks and connected marketplaces. This is still technically part of Marlock, which is why this happens. In the portal areas, and this is found also in Caerleon, is the energy manipulator. The energy manipulator is very important for a number of reasons. Number one, it's where you do Crystal League content. You could purchase a token to either lethal or non-lethal Crystal League, and each member of your team needs to have that token ready when you start the registration process. Make sure you have the appropriate token. Make sure you don't put your token away. Once the registration is complete, you need to hold on to it. Otherwise, it will not work, and you will be the cause of your team not going into a Crystal League match. And your team will be pissed at you. Trust me. Trust me, I know. This again has very similar to the Artifact Foundry has a transmutation system, but this is perhaps the most important one, at least for solo players who enjoy doing content that grants you might and favor. Every time you do the Conqueror's Challenge, it is rewarding you for risking going into areas that are full loot PvP. You could only earn might in areas that are full loot PvP. Let's go into a zone that we haven't been into. Now we're going into a zone that technically has PvP enabled, and would you look at that, there's 2 people already flagged up. These individuals have manually turned on their flags, and you're able to do so by simply dismounting and clicking this particular icon right here. If you want to be safer, you can look at the bottom of your screen here towards the minimap. And if you see here, it shows 2 crossed swords at the bottom with the number 5 next to it. That means there are 5 now 6, because it changed to 6, there are 6 players who are hostile. This also applies to the full loop PvP zone of the red area, the full loop PvP area of the red zone. It's important to look at this when you're in a red zone especially, because if there is a ton of reds in that zone, they might be spread out looking to kill people who are traveling by. So this is a good step one is this zone safe? Let me look at this number down here. We are now going to go into a Mist of Avalon. As you just saw, there was a little wisp that if you go near it, it opens up a portal. We're going to click on that portal, and we're going to show you this piece of content. Now, the Mist of Avalon is brand new, but I would say it's probably the best solo content to ever enter the Albion stratosphere, because there's very special rules that happen in the Mist of Avalon. We entered in through a yellow zone, which means this is the non-lethal version of the mists. Yellow zone lethals are non-full loop PvP, but as a result of that non-full loop PvP, you do not earn might in here. So although I'm going in here for purposes of teaching you what this place is about, I would implore you to use this as a learning ground, but try to go to the lethal mists as soon as possible, because that's where the big money comes from. This might be a little bit more of an advanced area to go to, but some players do enjoy this type of content, so I'm just letting you know it's here. The best way to make money early will probably be through factions. You cannot be faction flagged in here. If you go through here, you lose your faction. If you were to go to your avatar on the top left, and you go to your stats, and you scroll down a little bit, you will notice that there is a line for Breslin standing, and we're currently neutral, 0 out of 50,000. Before you can even enter the city of Breslin, you need to have at least 50,000 Breslin standing, otherwise you can't even enter it. And a lot of you may only go there for the one reason, and that one reason would be you get an extra island. You could create an island in Breslin. Other players might want to go there because they want to do a lot of Roads of Avalon content, and there is a direct portal to get in there to a random one. There's also a direct portal to get into the mists, whether that's Yellow Zone mists or full loop PvP mists of the duo and the solo version. So there's many reasons why people go there, but mainly it's for the island. So how do we earn that standing? This little lantern right here is actually a perfect example of the way that most players will earn their standing the fastest. If you wanted to earn standing in the most safe way possible, especially if you're doing it in the lethal mists, how you would do so is open up those little cages here. And let's open it up and you'll see what they give us. They give us fame plus 291 Breslin standing. So it's not only good for Breslin standing, you can get some decent fame from it too. And if we look here in our stats and we hover over, would you look at that? 291 out of 50,000. So this is one way to earn that particular standing. There is PvP in here still. People do flag up and try to fight over things. And as you can see, there is a conditional flagging scenario. When you go to these outposts, you are actually flagging up for PvP. But again, this is non-lethal. So if your plan is just to clear these so you can clear the outposts, then that's all you got to do. You don't want a PvP, just pay attention and get ready to ride away. Another mechanic that the game has is treasure chests. Treasure chests are spawned randomly throughout the open world. They also show up in the Mists of Avalon. And in the yellow zone, you can just mess around and have some good fun. That's what we're doing right now, just messing around with people. As you can see, the chest has not been opened. Out of here, Lug. Uh-oh, they're teaming up on me. Ah! There we go. So as you can see, this is a non-full loop PvP area. It gets a little hectic, but these chests in general will spawn pretty much in blue zone, yellow zone, red zone, black zones, mists as well, and I believe also in the roads of Avalon. So these are things that you can go into. Expect PvP, especially in the full loot PvP areas. But this could be another way that you can earn some loot in the form of silver pouches, tomes of insight, which give you EXP, as well as other loot from the black market. Journey Back allows you to channel a recall back to the home base that you recently had bounded to. So the city that we were last was Marlock. We didn't enter any other city to change our bind, and hence, if we use this ability, we will be able to recall. Now there is a silver cost, and this silver cost is based on a number of factors, including what type of zone you're in, what your weight is, what the value of your item is, and certain items actually just completely create a much larger cost than is needed, especially when you're carrying maps. Journey Back with maps is very expensive. So if you want to use this ability, there are a few caveats. Number one, if you were to trade something with someone and you received an item in the trade, that would cancel your ability to journey back until you got back to town regularly. Then it would refresh. Another example of when you couldn't journey back would be if you had PvP outlaw status. Now there's two types of status for PvP in this game. There's the flagged up status, which appears as a yellow skull. I could show you this right now. And then there is outlaw status, which states that you recently attacked somebody, and until that status is over, you are unable to enter into a safe region. And that also stops you from using Journey Back. Another example would be taking something from an open world chest that you stored previously. A good example of this would be likely Bone Pool Marsh, if I'm not mistaken, or where was that? That was this other place that had something. Wanderlure Basin. So yeah, if you previously store something in one of these open world chests and you take something out, then you can't journey back. If you are around too many people, because you're doing either a faction event or a ZVZ, you gotta get away from people before you'll be able to journey back as well. So basically the moral of the story is, so long as you leave, go out and do your thing, whether that's gathering, PvE, PvP, anything that you loot naturally will allow you to journey back. If you take things from other people, if you take things from open world chests, and the other items that we mentioned there, you will not be able to. But here we go, let's just go back. We're ready to buy some T4 gear to make our life a little bit easier. I'm not sure if 56,000 will be enough for us to purchase things, but for purposes of this particular guide, if it's not enough, I will transfer some gold to this character to expedite the situation. And this just about does it. Part 2 of our guide. There is another guide coming out that extends our second portion of this video, so watch out for video number 3 coming soon. Thank you so much.